Hello, Taylor. Did you see the movie?
I did see the movie. I was one of the first people
when did
to
you
see it. I saw
when
it.
did you see it?
I saw it on Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, you saw it in the morning. And where did you see it?
Alice Tully Hall.
Oh, you saw it, and in the they showed it then. What was it like? Was it like a press screening in the morning, and what was that one? Because I went to the premiere that night, and some other people said they saw it as well.
Yeah, it was a press screening, and then it was a press conference with Martin Scorsese, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Jimmy Rosenthal.
They've all been doing the rounds now. I see that everywhere.
Oh yeah, it's been a lot to read and get into, but I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a little long, but I definitely thought that it was like for 3.5 hours. It was better than like another movie that would be 3.5 hours. And I love Joe Pesci.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
21?
Yeah.
So you don't. It's interesting when we were. Well, here. Pay attention to what I'm saying now, because even though you're not asking me your questions, I'm going to tell you something that's interesting. So what's interesting is that you're a young lady, and when we were prepping this movie and making this movie, we were very curious as to know what the audience was going to be for this movie, because Al Pacino and Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese and Harvey Keitel and Ray Romano, they're all from a different time, a different era, and to relate to that, there's my generation that grew up with these people, but then the newer generation, they know Robert De Niro mostly as a guy that's been, Meet the Fockers or some of these other lighter movies, and Joe Pesci, they know Joe Pesci from, if they know him at all, from maybe Lethal Weapon or My Cousin Vinny, or so it's just interesting to see how that was going to relate. But I guess a lot of young people are aware of who these people are, and they, the feedback has been fairly good. Yeah,
I definitely was going to comment on that too, because there's like a maybe 10-minute, I don't want to say break in the movie, but almost an explanation where they said, Jimmy Hoffa, no one of this generation would know, and they kind of, almost like in a documentary style, go into the history of it. I mean, I think because I'm a film student and I'm also Italian, that, I know, like, all the actors, all the filmmakers, and I mean, I know a little bit about the history, but, I mean, I didn't think I was the target audience at all, but I myself am curious, especially with this being, a Netflix release, where Netflix is a huge, young adult following, how that's going to be perceived.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious too to see how it's going to be perceived. And we were, I wouldn't say nervous, but we were concerned. Not more than a little concerned, just concerned. Mm-hmm. To quote the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
that line's in the movie.
I think it's beyond generation. I mean, from seeing it, it's just a good story, and I mean, from what I took away from it, I mean, it was at the heart of it. It's really about a guy choosing between two people that he really cared for, and I think that's universal. So I enjoyed it. But let me get into you. And so I was listening to a podcast that you did. I guess it was around last year. And
that was from one of the actors in the movie.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's it. Who did he play? I know a couple people that were in it.
I think he played, I'm pretty sure, but I mean, I'm like 99% sure. He played the role of the son in the silver shop that had better straighten out. Tell your son to straighten out. He smacks him in the side of the head. Pesci does. When he leaves, he goes in to collect some money. He says, "Listen, you got to tell your son. You got to straighten your son out." I think that's who it was.
Oh wow, that's very cool. I have a couple of people in my organization who are in it. But my question about you being an executive producer, because when I spoke to Georgia Gakandis, when I interviewed her over the summer, Something like completely new I learned about how an executive producer is, in essence, a line producer. I go to NYU in my last semester, and it's never brought up that is
the same thing.
And they say it's just people who either find the money or put the money up themselves. So
no.
Isn't that crazy that they say that?
Yeah. Well, we would be better served as being described as a line producer because they've lumped the executive producers all into one big kind of barrel, and there's too many of them. They maybe had some money that they brought to the project, or maybe they introduced somebody to purchase the project, or maybe they purchased it, but they have nothing to do with the contracting, the building of the movie. That's what the line producer does.
Is it a more recent thing that they've decided to term it, or am I just completely lost?
I think so. Maybe in the last 10 years, maybe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Listen, we make the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Emma, who's the producer, she's there every day, and she's with me, and we're making the movie.
So then, tell me what exactly in this film in particular. I'm sure there's a lot of new things that you had to, I don't want to say adjust, but figure out maybe. I mean, with the de-aging technology, I'm sure that presented a brand new challenge in terms of, I mean, you say that you're someone who manages money, right? So that's like a huge expense. So how do you approach that in your work for something like the de-aging?
Yeah, I mean, managing the money is only one aspect of line producing. I mean, the production manager, unit production manager also, manages the money, and the accountant manages the money. The three of us are really managing the money. We're watching what's being spent on a daily basis and monitoring it as it goes along. Every movie that we do is kind of unique. I mean, some are pretty much similar to. They're all similar to each other, but this one was particularly different. Just like if you did a musical, it would be different. Like I did Across the Universe,
right?
And I did another show that had all dancers and Broadway singers, and that's a whole different thing. You have to figure out the contracts for Broadway, and you have to figure out dancers, and you have to, it's a different aspect. It's almost like a different medium. So for this particular movie, the thing that was most challenging was the visual effects aspect of it. Not most challenging, but was very challenging was the visual effects aspect, because it really had never been done before to this degree. So we were all concerned about how that was going to work out, besides the expense, because if the de-aging didn't work and people didn't buy it, then the movie was going to flop. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
So that presented a different set of issues. But the fact that you work on a Marty Scorsese movie and you're shooting 108 days and you're dealing with the precision and the kind of attention that he pays to detail, you're always on your toes with him. So that was the same on Wolf of Wall Street as it was on this one. So.
Right. And something interesting about Wolf of Wall Street, and I remember when it came out, I've always been interested in like how CGI is used, especially for someone like a filmmaker like Martin Scorsese. Like, he's someone who you think he's so interested in filming it on film, or keeping the art form like very pure. And in The Wolf of Wall Street, there was this one video that came out, and it showed all these extras that were just computer generated. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's so fascinating. And another question I have regarding that is, do you think there's gonna come a point when the technology is so good that it might replace actors in some instances, or that maybe it will even revive some really great actors? I've seen an Audrey Hepburn Godiva commercial, and it looked terrific. They looked just like her, and I wonder if you have any kind of thoughts on that aspect.
Well, this is the first time I'm kind of really thinking about it. I don't know. I don't know what technology is going to bring. I wouldn't be surprised about anything with technology, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a certain purity to the acting. I mean, you can duplicate somebody, and you can create alternate reality. You can do all of that. But it's probably coming down the road. There's probably going to be manipulations that are going to be, you know, offensive to some people.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. But crowd enhancement has been around for a long time. And when you have when you need a big crowd, or when you need if you need a big crowd, you're gonna enhance it digitally, probably, because it's too expensive to hire that many extras to come and do.
Sure.
I mean, it's just, you know, it's just too expensive.
Right. It looked like there was a large number in this film, though, because I was reading the press release, and it said there were about, like, 600 extras or something like that. Not sure if I'm completely right on that number, but...
600 extras?
Yeah.
Oh, no, there were thousands. I think we had, like, 5,000 extras.
Oh, wow.
Throughout the course of the movie. Oh, yeah, the number was a lot higher. But that's not necessarily a high number. You know, I think if you amortize it over the course of the picture, you know, it's 108, and you have, you know, whatever, just do your math. I don't think it was that many extras, but we had a lot of days of shooting, so,
right.
You know.
So I don't know if you've ever worked directly with Netflix or a streaming platform, but I think that, the big thing about this film is it's being backed by Netflix. I think that is what makes people doubly interested in the film, not just the content. So what was different with working with, you know, a streaming service that is just kind of disrupting the industry than you've done, you know, in any other project? Is that something you're directly handling, like working with Netflix on anything?
Well, you know, I'm just looking something up for you. I'm typing something in. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Extras. I'm just going to tell you how many extras we had. We had a total of, I was close. We had a total of a little over 5,000 extras.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back in the press release and let you know if they made a mistake.
Yeah, there was 5,000 extras, yeah, total on the whole movie. Yeah. Anyway, the question you just asked me, about Netflix. Well, I never worked with that media, although I did do a show, I did Too Big to Fail for HBO.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, we knew that was just going to be on HBO. It wasn't going anywhere else. And it was made for TV, and that's the only other TV I've done. I really haven't done TV. I do movies, and I'm not making a value judgment. There's a lot of good stuff on TV. So when we went with Netflix, it was the thing that made it different was that Marty needed to, and you know, demanded that he have a theatrical release, and they don't. At that time, Roman hadn't come out yet, and I think that was one of the first ones that had a theatrical release, either that or Birdcage or one of them. So it was being discussed and debated how that was going to be handled. We just knew it was going to air somewhere at the theaters, run at the theaters for some period of time, but that was all being negotiated when we were making the movie. So it was only different in that respect. It wasn't different in the making of the movie or the communication with the studio or the use of their assets like lawyers and product placement and business affairs. It was another studio as far as we were concerned. Mm-hmm. That's all.
So something that I've been wondering, because it's not very clear, is that how do you judge success on a film like this, because it's being released by Netflix? It's not like they give out information. To a degree, you're going to know what the box office is, and that'll be clear for the theatrical. But is success just money from, that end? Is it from the Oscar nominations? Is it the number of people viewing on Netflix? And that won't be clear to the public because they don't release that information. So how do you gauge whether or not the film will be a success in the end? It's very different.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, you thought about the question because you kind of answered it yourself, and I don't know if obviously it's going to be a success. I don't know. I think it will be. I don't know if it's obvious that it will be, but I think it will be, and I hope it will be. I think you're going to judge the success of it, and let's define success. If we're defining success by money, then that's one thing. If we're defining success about critical reviews, that's and the popularity of the film and how it's received, that's a different thing. So, there are a lot of wealthy people that are successful, but their lives are a mess. So, are they successful? I don't know. You got to once you define it, you tell me what it is, and I'll tell you. But based on what we use as the measuring stick for success, I would say that when the movie has its theatrical release, even though it's going to be at a very limited number of theaters, I think you just have to see how it does for that 3-week period of time. And if it does well, for the, numbers-wise, you've got to take into account it's only going to be at a limited number of theaters. So per screen, how it did, that's one way to gauge whether it was successful or not. Then, the reviews will gauge another thing. The awards will be another way to do it. And then finally, how Netflix does on viewership, only they know that. And there's no way to gauge that. They might tell you, and so if you believe what they tell you, then if they tell you, then that's how you'll find out. But I think it's a combination of many things.
For them, I guess success is just the popularity of the movie and that it would sign up more people for subscriptions. With Amazon, they kind of have been on the record saying that they don't really care about the content that they produce. They care about, selling toilet paper so that people can get the Amazon Prime subscription. So, right. I think
that's how they judge it. But I do believe that maybe their stockholders, only care about the success and as it relates to the bottom line. But I think there are a lot of people at Netflix that run the operation, especially on the creative side, that are equally interested in the quality of what they produce. And
definitely
having, and I think that's important to them. I mean, I would like to think so. Yeah. So I think that they're gonna judge it on how it's critically acclaimed as well. Whether if it doesn't make any money, well, then their decision the next time will be, as much as we'd like to make a movie with Francis Ford Coppola now, who's got a great reputation with The Godfather and everything. We're not going to invest that kind of money because there's no way for us to get it back, or not. You know what I mean? That's up to them. But they have to decide what's important to them at that point.
Right. Have you heard what Steven Spielberg kind of went out and said about Netflix, that it's not really fair that they get to compete, in the Oscars and things like that? I mean, I'm a little bit cynical about what he said because he wound up joining Apple and working with them on a film. Do you think that in any way that, he has some
credibility behind it?
Yeah, credibility behind it. I mean, it's a big debate going on right now.
Look, everybody's got an opinion. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that think Donald Trump can do no wrong. I mean, you might scratch your head at that and you might say, are you serious? What are you looking at? But I don't know. Everybody's got an opinion. I don't mean to liken Steven Spielberg to Donald Trump. He's nothing to do with it. But I'm sure he's probably the polar opposite. But I don't know. It's like, when I was younger, Elvis Presley came on the Ed Sullivan Show. I think it was like 1960, and my parents and people of that generation said this guy shouldn't be allowed on TV with all the gyrations that he was doing. I mean, fully clothed, and it was like, really, really. And now look at what's on TV. So, I mean, you can fight technology, and you can fight progress, but you're going to lose. There's no, you can fight it for as long as you want, but eventually you're going to lose. Digital, people fought the film. It's got to be film. It can't be digital. It's not pure. It's not, you're not honoring the cinematic blah blah blah. And now it's digital. Now it swings back to film a little bit. So you kind of, either, what's the saying? Join them, or whatever that saying is. That's what it is.
Yeah. So what do you think is the future of the movie theater experience? I mean, you've worked on a lot of big budget films that are meant to be event movies.
Sure.
I mean,
well, I hope. I know this. If I had watched The Irishman on TV at my home, I probably would have stopped. I would have got up and got something to eat, and I could have. And some people would pause and say, "Well, I'm going to watch the rest of it tomorrow." And I'm going to movies. I think most movies should be seen at the theater. I think it's a great experience. I think it's special, and I think when you go in there and you watch it with a group, and they're not all like-minded, but they're only like-minded in that they want to see the movie. But when you watch it with a group, there are certain things that happen in a group setting that don't happen when you watch it by yourself. And I think it's important to experience it with others too, because it's kind of a gregarious medium. So I'm all for movie theaters, and I try to watch. And they've made the movie theater so comfortable these days. Mm-hmm. I mean, my God. So I hope we never lose that. Watching a movie on a phone, please.
Yeah. Well, to your point, I mean, when I went to see the movie, I mean, being in that huge theater and being surrounded by so many people and kind of bouncing off their reactions, I mean, when you think about the film, although it's quite funny, it's pretty melancholy. And, I wonder what my experience would have been watching it by myself, on my television, because it's slow, but that's the intention of it. And I was really interested in seeing if I was affected by all these other people, reacting to it anyway.
Well, it's a communal experience.
Yeah. And some people have likened it to a miniseries, that it could have worked quite well as a miniseries as well. I agree with that. I don't know, where I would say, each episode would end, but I definitely can see that.
Well, when we were making the movie, we thought about that. We thought maybe Netflix would show it, have it a 4.5 hour, 4 episodes or something. We thought that. I mean, this never came from Marty. It just came from, people wondering how it was going to be presented. Mm-hmm. So, that's an idea that many people had come to their mind.
Right. I mean, even Quentin Tarantino, I think he released The Hateful Eight on Netflix as as a 4-part. He split it up, made it a 4-part miniseries, and added some stuff on it. So it's becoming.
Oh, he did? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it, and then I think he was going to do something similar with something else. But I thought that was interesting.
I never knew that.
But let me ask you a question about the historical accuracy of the film. I mean, there are a lot of films that have been coming out that have been really, kind of bashed for not sticking to, I don't know, I'll give you like Bohemian Rhapsody. People were really upset by the portrayal. Or I just saw the movie Judy yesterday, and there's some things in there that totally fabricated. So is that something that you're making a conscientious effort of kind of keeping up with that stuff, or does it not apply to you?
Well, when I watch a movie, if you correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't know. I don't think I saw on the screen on Friday night that the movie was based on an account of Frank Sheeran. Like,
you're right.
Like the fact, not the details. Some of the whatever is based on a true story or something.
Right,
because it never said that. It
right,
never
because it's
referred to that at all.
unsolved. Right. And did it say it was based on the book? I don't recall.
I didn't see it based on the book either. I just saw.
Really interesting.
I heard You Paint Houses. I saw that right on the screen, and I know Marty was really giving it a lot of thought to call it. I Heard You Paint Houses. I mean, I think he wanted to do it. Netflix wanted to call it The Irishman, but there was never a reference made to that book. So it was just interesting, based on true events or based on. It never said that, and I was curious because Marty, I would have thought that he was going to add that, but he didn't. So how do I feel about that? Well, I think that if you have a movie and it's based on a true story, I mean, you should try to stay as close to it as you can. I don't think you should make things up when you're doing a movie that's based on a true story. Except you have to take some artistic liberty. I think you do. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
If you're doing a movie on Martin Luther King, or you're doing a movie on Michael Jackson, and it's based on a book or something, on a true story, and you fabricate that let's say that he slept with all these kids. Well, you don't know if he did. That was a problem, right? Because people didn't necessarily agree with that they took that liberty. So I don't know. It's kind of tricky. It's kind of tricky.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the sense of this movie, like, I don't want to call it at all a fantasy, but it's like one person's account that a lot of people completely dismiss.
Yeah, dispute.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they do. Well, they don't dismiss everything. They don't dismiss everything because he did kill people. And
right.
He did have the ring. We saw the ring. That was the actual ring. And we talked to his daughter, and, the shit went down. But did he kill Jimmy Hoffa? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he killed Jimmy Hoffa. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, or like the Joe Gallo thing. The Joe Gallo thing, I mean, Joe Gallo's wife basically was like, there was no way that it was him in the restaurant, or, I mean, even in the way that, like, it was filmed, I just would imagine somebody would have caught a glance of him if he didn't have, a hat on or anything like that, a mask on. But that's what I was just interested in that, because I guess you could kind of toy with it as much as you want in this movie, because it's just one person's point of view, so you really can...
it's his autobiography,
right.
And he was a killer. Who the hell? And who knows if you can believe him or not?
Yeah, I wanted to get something in on the Joker, because I know that you're on that film as well, and then you've been a part of almost all of the Spiderman movies. So, what do you think about how superhero movies are affecting movie making now? I mean, you can't live with them or live without them. I think it's really changed the industry.
Well, I haven't given it that much thought, other than I don't go to see them. You know what I mean? They don't interest me. Mm-hmm. I like kind of human interest stories, and although some of them are like that, some of them are okay. It's escapism. It's like, it's a way to get away from the realities of the world and the harshness of what's going on in the world. So I get it. And it's also been a complete boon and, injection of a revival to the studios, because some of the studios, one of those movies can make them enough money to make other movies that are lesser budget movies and are more, like topical or more creative. So, I think they serve a purpose. I think there are too many of them. I think it's ridiculous, but maybe it really benefits the whole film industry by having that happen.
Right. I mean, in some movies like The Joker, I think they're superhero movies, but then they're also dramas. They're
that one's
blurring the lines.
Yeah, I wouldn't call the Joker a superhero movie, because first of all, he's not a hero, and second of all, he's not super.
Right, like a comic book movie.
You know. Yeah, the comic book was, and it's the DC Comics, and I get it. But this story is really nothing about that. You know what I mean? It's a story about a disenfranchised, man he's not right in the head. You know, he needs help, and he's just not getting it. And society's not helping him. So, all this talk for me about it is violent. There might be copycats, and there might be this, and it's not good. First of all, there's more killings in the Irishman than there are in the Joker. And and there are a lot of movies that are a lot more violent. Tarantino movies are a lot more violent than the Joker. And so, I don't quite get. I really don't get it. If you're going to copy the Joker, you're sick to begin with. I mean, he's just a comic book. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it had anything really to do with just how close that Universal release being canceled was, because I forget the name of it, but the original title was like Red State, Blue State, but Universal had canceled it because it was about killing members of a certain political party, and that's different.
That stuff's a little dangerous. I mean, that's dangerous. I mean, those things exist. They really exist. And what we're going through right now in this country is crazy. I think you got to draw the line somewhere, but I don't think I don't think the Joker is that one.
Yeah, and it's like you said, you have to be crazy to begin with. It's not like you're going to see the movie and you're suddenly going to become a serial killer.
Yeah, but then you don't need to set people off either. Some people just need a little spark to get them going too. So. Right.
So let me ask you, since you're part of the Spiderman franchise, what...
Well, I was.
Well, you were, but...
I did 5 of them.
5 of them's big number. How many are there? There's like 7. So, the whole debate about Marvel... Well, not debate, but the conflict between Marvel and Sony. I mean, I think they released something, either it was today or yesterday or sometime during the week, that there might be a plan to resolve their issues and put Spider-Man back in the Marvel universe. I just kind of have the feeling that it might have been like a big publicity thing. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I really don't know anything I know very little about it. I just know that the one before the last one that I did, it was, and I just did the New York portion of it. The Sony and Marvel got together and they worked out a finance deal because Sony didn't want to put up all the money. It was too risky, or I think that was it. So, and Marvel came in and was willing to put up more of the money, and they just worked it out. Who owns it, where it's going to go, I really don't have a clue. I have no clue. All I know is that Marvel right now is going through the roof with the money that they're making. So, maybe they're in a better position to make these movies because, Sony doesn't have the money that Marvel does.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people have been firing their agents. What do you think about that aspect?
They've been firing their agents?
Yeah, like a lot of writers have been firing their agents, or like even actresses like Jennifer Lawrence. She left CAA and she's just working on her own. Do you think that's just going to be a consistent thing in the future?
Oh, I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware of it at all. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
You're telling me for the first time.
Yeah, I guess...
Is that a new thing? Is that happening, like, recently?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just curious about it because, it would make sense. Like, why would Jennifer Lawrence pay 10% to her agent or however much?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like, she doesn't...
Well, I know. I don't know why she would pay 10% to her agent. That's kind of a business question. Some people have... They don't need an agent anymore. Does Robert De Niro need, let's say, an agent and a manager to get him work, or somebody that's really hot? Do you need that? I mean, you don't necessarily need those people to do it, but they handle a lot of the paperwork and they handle the negotiations, and they handle a lot, whether it's 10% or 5% or whatever percent it is. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'll tell you this because I'll tell you the truth. I haven't been paying attention to a lot of that because for the last 9 months, 10 months, all I've been doing is playing music. That's all I want to do right now is play music. So I'm not even interested in doing any film right now.
Wow, so that's for like a long-term no film? That's what you're heading
Well,
toward?
I did 35 years of film, and I used to be a jazz musician, and I got back into it about 3 years ago, and now I'm playing music. That's what I'm doing. I'm playing music, a lot of music, and recording some stuff, and that's what I want to do. So I don't know if I'm ever going to do another film again. I have no clue. But at the moment, I'm just doing music. So I'm not paying attention to a lot of that stuff.
It's really interesting. I saw a couple of your clips on YouTube.
Good.
And then I was listening to the podcast, and I heard you had performed with Joe Pesci a couple of times once you started talking jazz with him. That's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I'm surprised have you ever considered like scoring a film or anything like that?
No, because I'm not a composer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm really more of a performer.
Mm-hmm. Where do you perform in New York or?
New York, New Jersey, going down to Washington D.C. I'm performing down at got a club down there, Blues Alley, which is a real good club down there. You know, different places. I'm just trying. You know, I'm kind of like starting all over again after being away for 35 years. So, you know, the music business, the movie industry is a lot easier than the music industry.
You think so?
Oh, I know so.
I don't know. My brother's a musician, and
how's he doing?
I mean, it's really tough. I mean, I guess, and I've been trying to figure it out, you know, helping him with the stuff. But I just feel like if you're a musician, it's so much easier shopping around a 3-minute song than it is like a screenplay. You know what I mean? He was in a rock band, but I mean, he kind of just went to all these different venues and bounced around. He was at the Starland Ballroom, Stone Pony, Whiskey A Go Go, and he just kind of did everything, and he was figuring it out as he went along. But I mean, it was just so tough, and there's not really a direct path to figuring out. And it's the same way like in selling a screenplay. When you said it in the podcast, it's like it's just perseverance. There's not really a step A, step B, like that. But I don't know. I would think it would be like.
Well, look, there's more. There isn't really. I don't want to get into a whole conversation about music, but there really isn't a music business anymore. You know, they don't make records. They don't. You know what I mean? They don't make. You know, it's tough, and there's some clubs. There's not a lot of clubs. There's big venues for big concerts, but you know, you can get your music online. People can't make money making records anymore, but they're making movies all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, there's 65 or 70 projects going on in New York at one time. So people are there's an avenue and an industry for people to work in and make money.
Right.
A lot more people can work in the music in the film industry than in the music industry to get paid a livable wage. You know what I mean?
Right. Makes sense. I mean, I didn't really think about it that way, but I guess I'm one up on him then.
You are. You sure are. Absolutely.
Well, duly noted, and I guess I'll end it at that. I really appreciate you taking this time out. I mean, it's been invaluable, and I really look forward to sharing some of your insights with the members of my organization. All right, Richard, thank you so much again.
Yeah, good luck, and maybe I'll run into you somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, take care.
Good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.